Alrighty, good morning, my friends. It is Friday, the day of quadruple witching. So where are we? March 21st, 3/2/1, 2025. We're going to jump back to yesterday. I think there's a pretty clear example of something we've been talking about every single morning. So we'll look at that. Of course, I was too busy finishing up my broadcast, started my processing of my video, so I was not quite as tuned in right there when the market opened, but there was a pretty awesome opportunity within the first couple minutes of the open. Right, I think we were talking as this was happening. I was still blabbering because I was still talking about our review, and we were talking about maybe even getting close to the open, talking about some of the stuff over here. And market opened, and within the first minute of the open, you guys got probably the best trade of the day, and it was a very, very obvious setup. So what have we talked about almost every day for the last couple weeks? We've been talking about leveraging this 3-minute time frame, specifically the signals that we get on it. And so when we came in yesterday, again, I probably would have taken this trade, but if you go back to the recordings, I think you'll see I was busy blabbering away doing our broadcast when this setup occurred just after the open. We might have even been on the higher time frames that the market opened, and then I moved the 60-minute chart off and we came to the screen, and I think we had already started bouncing off. But there was a beautiful setup yesterday. In the first minute of the open, you could have gotten in right off our very roadmap level, and you could have captured this beautiful 3-minute bullish divergence, right? So coming into the open here, you could see this is kind of what the 3-minute chart looked like. And as we started to travel down towards 50% of the day before, maybe even arguably the roadmap level there, might be smart to throw your trade right between the two. And if you did that at 85, I would think you basically nailed the low within one tick for the whole day. Never came back. So as it came in, let's just kind of play this as it was happening. This vertical line you see is 9:30 Eastern. So that was right when the market opened there. And you can see out of the open, it starts to travel down, get closer and closer to the 50% of last week, comes in and tags it. And as it's tagging in, you already have that local 512 potential, not confirmed, but you start to have the potential. And as this 3-minute starts to come into the level, you should have recognized how much higher the RVI was over here compared to how low price was. And you should have noticed the potential divergence there. So as you're noticing the 3-minute potential, as it's kind of ticking down right into this pocket, you should have recognized your 512 also showing some divergence. Now, did it bounce to the tick? Yes, but then it rolled right into it, came just a couple ticks lower, and then that printed another divergence, and that was it. That was the low of the day. It was the very trade setup that I talk about every single morning. We got a 3-minute bullish potential as we tested a very, very, very obvious area of, and what did I just do here? Very, very area of support. 3-minute potential, 512 divergence on both tests. There's the kiss to the tick. And then what happened? They rolled over from 85.75 to 84.25 for a little 1.5 point push through, and then it took off. If you missed out on that entry and you recognized, oh, look, there's that setup Justin talks about, the 3-minute very obvious bullish signal from a very, very strong area of support, and you wanted to get long, your next opportunity was right off the roadmap level with a whole crap load of divergence. Maybe not maybe not the most sexy type of divergence setup, but you did have the first pullback into the next roadmap level. And how often do we see the market do this very crap? Hold a level, come up through the next one, come back to it, hold that one, push up through that next one, pull back, hold the next one. This is the stair step type of stuff. So if you missed out on the long right out of the open, again, if you zoom out and look, market never came back. We had a beautiful rally from there. If you took this long, and let's say you got filled at 85 half, right off, or 85, let's say 86, a tick in front of the level, we went from 56.86 to 57, almost 57.86. So we're like at a 70, 80 point push. And how much risk did you have to take? Maybe a point and a half if you bought 50%. If you threw your entry in right between the two levels, you took on like 2 ticks of risk. And then from there, never came back, went 70 points. So here's another clear example of nailing the major low of the day, using the very setup I talk about every single day. And if you missed out on it, you then got your next opportunity off the next roadmap level where you took on, again, how much risk? Maybe a couple ticks, 2 or 3 ticks. Now, the most aggressive thing you could have done yesterday, outside of buying the actual setup, which is not as aggressive, was that little pullback to kiss the FMA and go. But that's not my kind of setup. What I would have much rather have seen here was a breakout through the FMA to come away from it a couple points and start to travel right back into it and then enter there. So that didn't happen, right? It was so strong that it just ripped right through. Still did come back right to it there and give it a little smooch for the bounce, but a little too aggressive for me. So I would have watched this thing launch out as I'm looking at this going, oh, there's my friggin' trade. And then I would have had to got aggressive here and just bought the pullback to the next roadmap level, right? So great opportunity yesterday right out of the open with our 3-minute signal there. There it is. That is why I tell you, even though you can look at 15-minute time frames and 30-minute time frames and hourly time frames, the 3-minute is where you're going to get the best entry off the signal. And yeah, it's a little bit less potential for this to turn into a 70-point push. But if you nail some of these entries with a 3-minute signal off of a very good area of support or resistance, you could nail the low of the day. And if you did it yesterday, you did, and you got in, and you were done within the first hour of the open. In fact, you were probably done if you took a bunch of your profit off 15 points up into the next roadmap level there. You would have made all your money in what? The first 2 or 3 minutes of the open. You could have walked away. You could have threw some runners on, walked away, and came back at the end of the day with some good profit, right? Now, if we want to look at some of the other details here, there was a short opportunity off the back end of the roadmap level with the 200 there. But as you can see, there was just way too much strength and it just ripped right through it. So trying to fade that really strong support, almost a straight line all the way up with that nice 3-minute signal, and that being a major, major level, 50% of last week with the roadmap level a tick away from the low. Well, I mean, in my opinion, that might have been a little bit too early because we were launching out of here real strong. Was there divergence? Was there the 200? Was there the roadmap level? Yes. But it was a very, very, very aggressive push up in there. And what I might have been waiting for if I was watching for a setup, which I wasn't, I would have been looking for a push in. So the first test, cool. I would have been waiting here watching this and then looking to see if this would give me pullback, slightly higher high, and then the reversal as long as I saw a divergence forming from that second high. So I probably wouldn't have even entered unless I just blindly put a short there. I would have been waiting for that very typical reversal pattern, just like down here off the lows, and you didn't really get it. It just kind of pushed into the level, and then within a couple seconds, within 7-8 seconds, it was already just kind of going right through it, and there was no pattern. So I wouldn't have gotten in because I didn't get the pattern I wanted. Now, was there divergence from the last major swing high? If you were to go all the way over here and look at what happened, yeah. But like I said, I do like a little local swing high divergence. That gives me a lot more faith. But hey, let's just say that was kind of a textbook setup for us. Wasn't the first test of the 200 by any means. The first test of the 200 was the day before, or in the overnight session, where they came right to it, bearish divergence. First test of the 200 after a major crossover and travel away. And that was the first test. So that was in the overnight session, maybe an hour or two before the open. Right? So there was that. But then once it popped through and then started to pull back into this roadmap level here, that was your signal there to keep going in the direction of this very strong push, right? Now, if you missed out on that pullback because it was maybe just too aggressive, you then got opportunities on the way up here, FMA, FMA, then they push into the first roadmap level that comes up after we break through the major scaffolding, and they come right to it here with bearish divergence for the next pullback. So that there would have been the type of pattern I would have wanted to see over here off the 200, where you get that little peak above, you get your little divergence, and then you act right off your level at 15. You actually got yourself a nice 5-point pullback. It was a little more than 5 points. And then they pop through, and then there's the tag of the FMA, tag of the FMA. So as you can see here, very aggressive market. So your best friend in an aggressive market is what? The FMA, right? So you got all these plays, and you just see how strong this ripped from there. Never even pulled back into the FMA after 10 a.m. or just before 10 a.m. Just ripped and ripped and ripped. And then we get our first notable pullback. And where does it pull back to? Oh, the roadmap level to the tick. Keeps going. And remember, these are brand new roadmap levels that we just put on the chart yesterday. These are brand new levels. And yet the low of the day, one tick away from the roadmap level. Get through the next one, pull back to it perfectly. Come to the next one, get a pullback right off of it. And then we launch 10, 20, 30, 40 points. Pull back right to the roadmap level. Okay, it's just unbelievable stuff. Now I do have a little kind of short time frame level in there at 47.25 that also yesterday seemed to have pulled back. I don't know if that was on our charts yesterday or if I added it last night, because I'm starting to build out all the levels on this new contract. But we did have a couple of these in here. Don't remember if 35.5 was there now that I think about it. But again, we've got new levels built out on here, some really good rotations. And then at the end of the day, it just became a chop fest, right? So if you kind of zoom out and look, they start to pull back and hold the back end of some of these roadmap levels on the way down, hold the VWAP, and then at the end of the day, go sideways, right? So nothing too sexy inside of there. And that brings us here to our overnight session where we're getting a pretty extreme sell-off. And what do you know? In the last couple seconds, again, not planned, not cherry picking here, the market just bounced off of our next roadmap level almost perfectly. So we're selling off, held the back end of this. This was all happening when I got to my charts this morning. Held the VWAP, held the roadmap level on the tag of the 200, and then finally one last kiss of the VWAP for the sell-off. And you can see basically last night they sell off right to our roadmap level to the tick. This is in the middle of the night or really, really early morning. Then we basically fail 3 times off the roadmap level, come down, bounce off the next one, hold the FMA. I mean, it's just kind of like all day long the same stuff is happening, right? So that concludes our review here. Again, still just every day blows me away, the accuracy of all this stuff. Let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames. We've got about 10, 12 minutes to see what they have to say for this morning. Anyone buy that, by the way, while I was blabbering? Pretty nice bullish divergence. All right,